Hello out there, Caniac Nation. Thanks for joining us for session 38 of Caniac Sessions. In session 38 today, we've got a special session to preview the first round series against the New York Islanders. It was just announced yesterday as of recording. Today is Thursday, April 18th. It was announced last night that game one of round one will be Saturday, 420, actually, for those who celebrate.
No, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. I'm not. I'm just teasing.
At 5 o'clock at PNC Arena. So I'm Griff.
I'm AB.
And today we also are joined by a host of another THPN podcast called Bardown Breakdown. It is New York Islanders focused. And Mikey joins us from Bardown Breakdown. How you doing, Mikey? Thanks for coming on.
What's going on, boys? Super honored to be a part of your show. I always like to tell people that tune into our podcast that I'm a hockey fan first and then a New York Islander fan. So
right on. That's awesome.
I just appreciate having hockey down in the South, and I want the Hurricanes to continue to succeed so that we don't have something like what's going on in Arizona ever happen.
Absolutely.
Truthfully, that's my chance to get to watch the New York Islanders is in Raleigh because it's only, 2.5 hours away from me in Charlotte. And if we ever lost them, I would be devastated. So, right on for the Hurricanes, turning things around, getting people back in the building, getting people excited about the Hurricanes. So excited to chat about the series for sure.
100% agree with you, man. For sure. AB, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm excited for this series preview. I'm excited for the playoffs in general.
Yeah.
It's just like an itch that needs to be scratched, and it's so close. And then finally, once they happen, that's pretty much all I'm going to be doing.
Yeah,
Watching.
definitely. I'm looking forward to it. I'm off work like all this week, all next week. So like the playoffs start right in the middle of my vacation time here. So it's my favorite time of the year. My favorite time of the year of late, when we actually make the playoffs. But
that's true.
Yeah, I'm ready to get going. But before we start this talk, first things first, we are brought to you by DraftKings as a member of THPN. That's the Hockey Podcast Network. Sports gambling is now legal, and it has been for some time here in North Carolina. So download DraftKings Sportsbook and use promo code THPN to score some bonus bets. We're also promotional partners with SeatGeek. First-time ticket purchasers. I got it right that time.
You did.
You can sign up with SeatGeek. Use promo code Caniac Sessions. That's one word with no space between Caniac and Sessions, and get $20 off your playoff tickets if you so choose to purchase them through SeatGeek. Helps us. It helps you. It helps SeatGeek take advantage. All right. The New York Islanders versus the Carolina Hurricanes for the second consecutive year in the first round. For the third time in the last 6 years, where they met back in, 2019, I believe, in the second round. So these two teams that are fairly familiar with each other, especially for being in the same division. So we'll go right to you, Mikey. How do you feel about the season as a whole? I know that New York needed to kind of put it together there at the end. They went on a great run to shoot up in the standings and take that third spot in the Metro. So just your thoughts on the season and getting to this point.
Honestly, I think it played out the way I thought it was going to. I figured it was going to be a dogfight. I figured we were going to be hanging on until the end, and that's exactly what happened. We had to do a coaching change, which definitely helped flip the ship a little bit. Getting Patrick Waugh in and the energy that he brings into the locker room has totally, transformed the team, and the players are buying in. Especially you see our superstar Matthew Barzal playing like a different player, playing possessed. And it's like, he wasn't really buying into Lane Lambert. So having the coach change happen and the players buying in, I was like feeling a little more optimistic. And then, like you were mentioning, we finished strong, and we got in even before the very last game of the season, which I've really thought it was going to go down to the very last game of the season, but we got in a day early or a game early. And I think that this team is a team that is built for the playoffs. And my thought was always, we just got to get in. The regular season is going to be a grind, but once we get in, we have veteran leadership, players that have been on deep runs. I feel good right now. I'm not saying that I'm like, all right, Islanders got the Stanley Cup guaranteed, like go throw money down on DraftKings. I'm not saying that. But I think that they could give some teams that are maybe on paper a little bit better a run for their money.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. Once the playoffs start, it's a clean slate. It's a new season, right? So, I mean, you can take a little bit, maybe statistically from the regular season, but really it comes down to, who is on top of their game, ready to go game one of the series. And then, it's a game in itself, right? So, I agree with you. And I think that's why we see the quote unquote upsets so often in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And that's what, in my opinion, makes hockey so much different than any other professional sport out there. Because, in the NFL, I mean, you can look at it and say, hey, these are the teams. These are probably going to be the two teams that play in the Super Bowl. And generally, you're pretty close. Hockey, it's not like that.
No, look at the St. Louis Blues not even too long ago, right?
Right.
Like very similar, honestly, to how the Islanders season played out. You've seen the LA Kings do it as an 8 seed win the Stanley Cup. So like really it's a totally different season. And some teams are built for the playoffs, and some are, as you could see, with teams that win the President's Trophy that get eliminated in the first round. You know what I mean? There's just a regular season team versus a playoff team. And I'm feeling okay right now with the Islanders being in and playing the Canes. And, I think in the locker room, like they know that they've played the Hurricanes 2 other times in the playoffs and with the same pretty much roster and did not come out on top. So that's got to be kind of lighting a little fire under them. Like, hey, we got to get this done. Like this, the same team that we keep losing to in the playoffs. Like it's got to be that bulletin board kind of material that fires them up a little bit.
For sure. AB, just your thoughts on the Canes, like, flip the script on the other side here. Your thoughts on the Canes regular season and finishing up, moving toward game one.
Well, I'm glad we didn't finish at the top because, again, there is something called the President's Trophy curse that has hit a couple of teams. Like
I'm praying it hits again this year.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. Like Mikey said, it's a similar roster from when the Islanders have played us the 2 times they have in the playoffs and now going on the 3rd time. But it just feels like something's different. And there's one specific guy on that top line who makes it look different. And that's Jake Getzel.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that also helped us finish really good this year because there was time in the regular season we were panicking. Panic. Yeah. Freaking out. Are we going to make the playoffs? Are we not going to make the playoffs? Are we going to go down the rabbit hole again?
Pre-January. Yeah.
Pre-January. So guys have really bought in and, they've done a good job. Mikey, I want to ask you because obviously when the Islanders had a coaching change with Patrick Waugh, what have you seen from the team besides, in the locker room, on ice? Has it been, forward stepping up defensemen? Has the passing been there? What's kind of stuck out for you during this coaching change?
Offensively, they've definitely turned it up a notch. It seems like defense is jumping in and like contributing. And for me, when you have someone like Ilya Sorokin locked up for a very long time at this point, who is going to be kind of our franchise goalie, on kind of a down year, right? Like he's not flashing, the leather like he was when he first got here. And there's some, kind of questionable positioning that he had at the beginning of the year. You bring in Patrick Waugh, right? Like that's all you have to say. He's a goalie, right? He's a world-known, top tier, probably top 10 goalies in the NHL. And you bring him in here and he's got their ears at practice every single day. And we have a goalie tandem that really can go on, a serious run, right? Like if Sorokin's not ready and he hasn't really been the hot hand the past couple of weeks, you throw in Varlamov, and I just feel as confident in him as I do in Sorokin. So like that 1A, 1B kind of situation that we had years ago with Robin Leonard and Thomas Greiss that worked so great. Like we kind of have that again. And I think part of why Varley has been able to just smoothly step in when Sorokin hasn't been so hot is partly due to having Patrick Waugh running practices. And, I think it's definitely, and, the sample size is really small at this point, right? It's happened halfway through the season, maybe even a little less than halfway. And I think with what we've seen, the team's bought in and they're willing to kind of go to war for him. And one of these games, and I don't even know if it was necessarily Patrick Waugh's decision, but one of these really important games that the Islanders needed to win, they had bagpipers going through the UBS Arena pregame. Like, who is not ready to just go to war when you hear bagpipes, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like he has a nickname St. Patrick, and I'm like, I wonder if that was his doing to get the boys going. Like it was definitely something, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan of former players as head coach. Obviously, I mean we have one, and I guess I never really thought about this until you just said that, but Carolina has kind of taken on the identity of their coach, right? The style that he played when he was a player. The defensive, responsible 200-foot forward who dominates the face-off circle and the forecheck, and I mean that's exactly what we are. And I mean we take on that identity. So now that you said that, Patrick Waugh, like you said, one of the greatest goaltenders to probably, like you said, top 10. So for them to take on that identity, especially the caliber that Sorokin and Varlamov, have the potential to be, yeah, that's definitely a wrinkle to add to this series that kind of makes it that much more exciting in my opinion. So yeah, I never really thought about that until you just said it, but total sense, right? So
Yeah, and they get a ton of shots, man. Like the Islanders might give up the most. And like I said, I'm not a stats guy. I'm going by the eye test. And I'm like, man,
right.
like 40 plus shots a game on them. It's got to be top, 5 in the NHL of shots of giving, right? So having still made the playoffs and, didn't even finish in a wild card, finishing the third in the Metro, even giving up all those shots, it's like, all right, positioning wise, the goalies are doing what they need to do. Defensively, like, yeah, maybe they're giving these low percentage chances shots up. And it kind of makes you think that that's coming down from Patrick Waugh. Like I said, I'm not in the locker room. I don't really
right.
know what's going on in practice and whatnot, but that's kind of where I'm sitting with it.
So kind of moving forward here, I kind of want to hit on, some of the strengths and weaknesses of these two teams and kind of, compare and contrast how that, how the matchups will look against one another. So just quickly, you want to talk about maybe a couple of their strengths and weaknesses and, just from kind of watching the team all year.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be cliche if I say this, but if the Islanders can stay out of the penalty box and play 5-on-5 hockey, then this is going to go to game 7.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to kill them is if they take stupid penalties, and our penalty kill has not been great. And
Yeah,
truthfully, it's kind of been a curse of the Islanders for as long as I can remember. Our power play is hot garbage. Like, I don't even necessarily want a bunch of power plays. I'd rather just play 5-on-5 hockey.
we've been there. We've been there before.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I think too, as far as Carolina goes, really special teams have been a strength of ours this year. I know we're top 3 on the power play in the regular season, and then first on the penalty kill. Since December, I'm not just trying to throw stats out here, but we just recorded 2 days ago, and we went through all this. That's so it's still fresh, but since December, we're operating at 30% on the power play and 90 on the penalty kill. So I've got that down as one of the key matchups in this series is special teams, and I think like you said, if New York can stay out of the box, force 5-on-5, I feel like that would be where the more the even matchup would be at 5-on-5. And, I really feel that if this series is decided on special teams, I feel like that might be in Carolina's favor. But again, you never know. I mean, who knows? 2 years ago, we played a series against the Rangers. We had a great penalty kill, and it just fell apart in the playoffs, which
Yeah.
ultimately resulted in us losing that series. Go ahead,
I
AB.
do want to say one thing that the Islanders have an advantage on is grit. Because when we played them last year, I mean, we were just getting thrown around. So that's if the Canes, try to be gritty and like it just doesn't work, then they're going to focus on that, and then that's when the Islanders are going to capitalize. And that's pretty much happened in all the playoff series I've seen. It when Carolina has played teams that are gritty.
I think that's why we went down in the Eastern Conference Final last year against Florida.
Yep, that's true.
But yeah, I agree. That's not a game we play. I mean, I wouldn't say that we're not physical. I mean, we're physical in terms of the forecheck and puck retrieval and board battles and all that good stuff. Like, that's definitely a strength of the team. But as far as
like
the
hits,
as far as like hits and blocking. Well, I wouldn't say blocking shots. They do block shots, mostly on the PK, but the extra stuff after the whistle, the game within the game, so to speak, right? The getting under each other's skin and whatnot. That's the game that we are not, if we get involved in, we're not going to win.
I totally agree. And like I said, that's why I felt like the Islanders team is built for the playoffs is because of those grit players, right? Like no one's drafting Cal Clutterbuck in a fantasy hockey team, right? but in the playoffs, that's like a top 10 guy I'm going after, right? Like Cal Clutterbuck gets under people's skin. He's not necessarily a dirty player. Like he's not like Sean Avery getting under people's skin, but like I think also realizes that, this might be his last run ever, right? Like he's getting older. I think he's actually like my age and I'm 37. Like he's in his mid to late 30s at this point. He's thrown his body around basically since he got into the NHL. He knows he doesn't have much longer. He's even in some of the interviews that he's done, like, postseason and whatnot, he just seems like a man possessed. And that could be dangerous. Like you wouldn't think like a Cal Clutterbuck could be a deciding factor in a playoff series. However, I think that might be exactly what it comes down to. Get a few of the Hurricanes off their game and make them take stupid penalties, even though, like I mentioned before, not necessarily, the best power play, but you still do have Matt Barzal out there. If he just turns it on a little bit and thinks shoot before pass, and all of a sudden you got a totally different power play, because that's really his downfall is he thinks pass first. He's more of a playmaker rather than just trying to bury it. So that could change in the playoffs too. So we'll see. But yeah, I think the grit is definitely on the Islanders' side for sure.
Yeah, and I just think that, in order for Carolina to, get through that basically is they're just going to have to ignore it. And I know that, ignore it the best they can. I mean, obviously, you don't want to go out there just taking hits right over and over, but just try to focus on the game and the skill and don't get involved in that, like I said, game within the game. I think they did a good job of that in the series last year. And I think that was one of the reasons why Carolina was able to win that series because I felt like, penalties were starting to be called in certain times and the power play was connecting. And then I felt like a lot of that stopped. So if they can do something like that again, but you never know, different season, different playoffs. Any more thoughts on that, AB?
No.
No.
Nope.
How do you guys feel about the 5 p.m. start time on Saturday? Is that an advantage or a disadvantage for you guys?
If we're talking about from a fan perspective, I'm all for it, right? Because get out there early, tailgate, get in the arena before the sun goes down, and I got a 2-hour drive. So
no, yeah, fan wise,
Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah, 5 p.m. would be so much better than an 8 o'clock start. But players wise and team performance wise,
yeah, we've had some weird start times this year. I recall there was a 12:30 game against Winnipeg. There was a couple 6 o'clock games, I believe, too. But I really haven't felt like that's bothered them this year. Of course, I talk about the Winnipeg game. We blew a third period lead, but they started on time, right? And that would be my concern is them, starting the game on time and, being their legs under them and all that stuff ready to go. I don't know if it necessarily matters so much in the playoffs. I feel like they're going to be ready to go no matter what. Game one, I don't think there's an issue there. And I really don't think it would bother the road team because they're on the road anyway. So
no, they're terrible. And anything,
really?
Any afternoon game, any non-traditional start time, they are not ready to go. So that's why when I saw it, I was like, 5 p.m. is kind of in between. I don't know how that's going to go, but I'm hoping that when the series returns to New York, that we're not having afternoon games. I don't want a Sunday afternoon game. I don't want that.
Right.
I want a traditional 7:30 or 8 o'clock weekend game, and then a 7:30 weeknight game, and that would be golden. Because I think the schedule can screw us too. We're not an afternoon team.
Because I think if it goes, every other day, like traditionally, Game 4 would be Sunday in Long Island, right?
It's on Long Island. Sorry, just in case any Islander fans are tuning in, we like to say on.
Yeah, Griff. God,
my apologies. I'm sorry. I will not make that mistake again. On Long Island. So that Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. No, that would be Game 5, right? Sunday. So that might be bad. Anyway, we'll see when they release the schedule. I'm assuming it'll be tonight. But yeah, I don't know if that. Can you recall, AB? I don't really think we've had an issue with weird start times this year.
I know just as a fan, it's the 12:30 games are awful. Those are just brutal. Even watching it, because you'd much rather sit back at a 7 o'clock, like Mikey was saying, 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock. But my thing is, I compare it to the movie theater. I hate going in when it's light outside, and I hate leaving when it's dark. So I kind of want to have, when the sun's going down and then come out when it's dark. But 5, it's okay. I mean, everybody on Saturday is going to be kind of relaxed if they're hockey fans and just watching. But during week games, probably 7:30 is the most likely.
Yeah. Somebody plays Sunday at I think there's a game Sunday in the Eastern Conference at noon. Is that Boston?
That sucks. I don't know. If it is Boston, I don't care. I want to check though, anyways.
I just wonder why is there something going on in Raleigh, like at the state fairgrounds or something that made it a 5 o'clock game? Because I know that sometimes is why they have these weird times in Raleigh.
So
I
I
think it's
know.
TV, isn't it? Isn't it TV? There's an
So
8 o'clock game, so
yeah, so I know the Rangers got moved to Sunday because the New York Knicks are in the playoffs and they're playing Saturday at home.
yeah.
So I think that's also a reason why. But I don't know. I don't know of anything happening.
It might just be TV related, right? So if there's an
I
eight
think
o'clock
yeah,
game, because they're not going to start an an Eastern Conference game after 8, right? That would be
yeah. I think
rare.
the Rangers are playing at noon. Let's see. They play at 3 on Sunday.
Okay.
Like that's too early. Like that's like too early.
Yeah. I would tend to agree. All right. So, Mikey, we'll start with you on this question. And maybe we've already covered this, but I'm just going to kind of lay it out here formally. What does the New York Islanders, or what do the New York Islanders have to do to advance to the second round? Or I'll phrase it like this. If the Islanders do blank, they will advance to the second round.
I think if our 30 goal scorers that we've had this year bury the puck in the playoffs, then we're good. We're golden. Because, if you think back to last year, we made that big trade deadline move to get Bo Hovart. And, he was a ghost. He did nothing in that series. However, a full season with our team, he is now taking over a leadership role. He, I think, ended up with 34 or 35 goals this year. Totally different player. So getting him to contribute, getting Palmieri to contribute. We had 30 goal scorers, which is probably the first time since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since we've had that. So kind of having balanced scoring, maybe get Anders Lee involved a little more, get him to get some of those dirty, gritty goals that aren't pretty, but at the end of the day, a goal's a goal. And
is he healthy? Is he gonna be ready to go?
Yeah, I think last night he didn't play because it was a maintenance kind of deal.
Okay.
I think for the most part, our team's pretty healthy. Noah Dobson had an upper body injury a couple of weeks ago, but he started practicing with the team, and rumors are that Noah Dobson will be back. So
awesome.
For the most part, we're pretty healthy.
Awesome. That's good news. I'll send the same question to you, AB.
Oh boy.
If Carolina does blank, they will advance to the second round.
If they stay out of the box and when they're given the chance on the power play, they score.
So
That's
maintain.
That's going to be the difference maker.
So maintain special teams.
Yeah, maintain special teams. That's the big thing. And don't get too caught up in the grit because immediately, like we talked about, the Islanders are a grittier team. And if we get caught up, just one little hit, it could lead to a mistake and a goal. And don't want that at all.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. But I was thinking more, I just kind of rolling with the assumption that, our special teams will resemble itself, so, at least somewhat. But I was thinking more that if Carolina can control 5-on-5 and win 5-on-5, then they would advance in the series. So that's my thoughts. But I think it's going to be closer than,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a 4 or 5, maybe even not a 6-game series. I mean, this could go, I think the Islanders coming into the playoffs, kind of on the heater that they've been on, having to fight, every game's been a playoff game for what, 2 weeks or maybe even longer. So, we saw what happened with Florida last year. They barely got in. And I don't mean that the Islanders barely got in. They finished third in the Metro, but really there was, 5-6 teams that were all fighting for a wild card and a third place spot. So it was a battle till the end, and that can make a team dangerous. So
I
we
think
go
what
ahead.
kind of casual fans or maybe like hockey media will look at is the point difference, right? Like, the Islanders getting that third Metro spot with 90 something points, where you guys are well in the hundreds, right? Like, you're gonna on paper think like, oh, the Hurricanes got this, like, they had a way better season and so on. But when you think about it, the reason our point total was so low is because of the amount of overtime losses we had. Well, guess what goes away in the playoffs?
Right.
Overtime. And our team is terrible. I'm talking about terrible in the shootout. Like the worst, like one of the worst shootout teams ever.
Yeah,
Like,
we're
they're
right down
so
there with
bad.
you.
Yeah.
So a lot of our overtime losses were because of that. And, with no shootout and having, just grinded it out in some overtime games, you don't know how these games are going to play out. So I think that's something just to be aware of, is like, yeah, on paper, we only had 90 something points, but look at the amount of overtime losses we had. And a lot of them were in the shootout. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, something that I brought up in session 37 was that we didn't really preview the game, the series. We just kind of quickly discussed it since it was just locked in that was going to be our opponent. But one of the things I discussed was that the goaltending that the Islanders have with Sorokin and Varlamov, that alone is enough to steal one or two games. If the series was leaning Carolina, that would be enough that could be enough to sway it the other way. So I think it's going to be great. I am looking forward to it. Hockey World thinks it's boring, right? Carolina and the Islanders is boring, but I don't think so. I'm pumped. I'm excited. Prediction time, boys.
Oh boy.
I think this can go to 7, and then, I can't bet against my team, right?
That's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. I fully expect you to go for it.
Yeah. So I think it's going to go down to 7, and I think the Islanders are going to pull it off, man. I do.
Awesome. All right. AB.
Sweet. No, I'm just teasing. Not sweet. I would say 6, and it goes in the Hurricanes' favor. I think it's going to be very similar to last series, but it's going to be not similar, but it's going to be a lot more back and forth than compared to last series.
So for me, one of the things that was interesting to me is, and I know we just said that the regular season doesn't matter, and it really doesn't. But when you look at these two teams in the series they played in the season, the road team won all 4 of the games, right? Canes took both games on the island.
I like
Did
that.
Did I get it that time?
You got it.
And the Islanders won both in Raleigh. So does that have any effect on the home team in this series? Probably not. But I thought it was interesting nonetheless. So I also believe that this game or this series will be over in 6, and I'm taking Carolina in 6. I believe that we'll go back on the island with up 2-0. We'll split there, and then basically close it out, kind of similar to last year. Basically close it out in game 6 there. So
I don't know. I just see each team stealing a game on the opposing teams.
right, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That's right on the head.
But yeah, it felt, I've been going to games at PNC since I moved here. So 2015, 2016 season. And it felt like we could never win in that building, right? We historically struggle in PNC. So the fact that we won twice in PNC this year is something I'm not used to, right?
Yeah.
And that gives me a little boost of confidence, like, oh, they can do it. It's not like a curse or anything. Like, they can do it. They did it twice this season. Because I'm sure that was kind of going through their minds. Another team that comes to mind is we can't win in Nashville. Like, we haven't been able to do that, but we also don't play Nashville as much. So, like, I just having them be successful at PNC this year gives me a little boost of confidence. And I don't know if I was telling you or I've been telling so many people, because once it was official that we were playing the Canes, I can't even tell you the amount of messages I got to see if I could get group tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And after not the last one, but when we got swept a couple of years ago, and I was there for game 4,
Oh boy.
I promised that I would never go back in PNC Arena for a playoff hockey game. Like, it's just a totally different experience because that was my first road playoff game where
Yeah.
I've seen the Islanders in the playoffs at the Nassau Coliseum my whole life. Well, not my whole life because it wasn't that many times, but like that's what I'm used to, that atmosphere. But then having a whole like arena basically targeting you as your team got swept and you have to walk out to your car, I was just like, nope, never doing that again.
Yeah.
So
I don't blame you at all on the, there. But I mean, not even a game 1 or a game 2?
no,
Okay.
no, it was brutal. Like, I took my wife, and she's a Islander fan. Like, she's basically an Islander fan by association. Like, she wants us to win just because she knows it would make me happy. But people in the stands were even like heckling her and targeting her because she was wearing Islander stuff, and it was just like, she really truthfully doesn't care. And I'm not like going to run my mouth when literally I'm outnumbered 18,000 to 1. So like it was a very intense atmosphere. And obviously having the sweep chants and the Hurricanes obnoxiously loud goal horn just like heightens the moment. I was just like, I can't
I bet
do
it was miserable. I bet it
Well,
was.
It was.
I would
at
have been
least you
miserable.
aren't like Rangers fans. I mean, those fans are pitiful.
Yeah,
and I know you know this, obviously, but like, yeah, PNC is filled with Rangers fans, and we were talking about this too. Like, there need to be. I want to get your take on this. Actually, do there need to be like some restraints set on some opposing fans going in there so it's not like a 50-50?
Well, I know that you guys have the whole address thing for the playoffs, right? Like, you can only buy tickets if you have a North Carolina address, which doesn't affect me because I have one. However, a lot of people in New York that did want to take the drive down, they have to get them from the secondary market. You can't get them directly through the Hurricanes.
Oh,
Right.
So
Well,
they
I
do
think
that for the playoffs. They don't do it for the regular season.
Mhm.
But let's also be kind of realistic, right? Right now, things are great for the Hurricanes. And like I mentioned, I want that to happen. But all it takes is 1 or 2 seasons where the Hurricanes aren't so great that they're going to be begging those opposing team fans to come into the building.
Yeah.
So
that might be true.
Yeah, that's true.
There was something I was getting ready to say, and I don't remember what it was.
You got it.
You got me sidetracked over here, AB.
It's not my fault.
Well, it's gone. It's fine.
That's all right.
Oh, I remember what it was now. So before we get out of here, we're gonna do 2 things. We're gonna take our round 1 for the Eastern Conference. What we think, who we think are gonna come out of the 4 series, and then we're gonna let Mikey talk about something that he's created personally, and kind of give his plug there. But real quick, guys, just quickly, we don't have to elaborate on it. Mikey, we'll start with you. Who do you think are coming out of the other 3 series? We obviously know that your pick is the Isles for our series, but what about the other 3?
I wouldn't hate to see the Rangers advance, just with the possibility that we could maybe down the road have an Islanders Rangers playoff series, just because I haven't experienced that since I was really young.
Uh-huh.
So to get to experience that as an adult could be fun, especially since I'm removed from kind of the Islanders Rangers rivalry, because I'm sure if I lived on Long Island still, that would be super annoying because you just like out work bumping elbows with Ranger fans, and like that would
Yeah.
be
Mhm.
at some point annoying. But now that I'm removed, I would love to have an Islanders Rangers series and be able to watch that with my Islanders group here. So I would like to see the Rangers advance. And then the Battle of Florida, right? That's the other one.
Mhm.
I I would love to see Florida take down the Bolts in that one. Similar situation where Florida fans kind of get a bad rap for not really being supportive when the team's not doing great. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's tough. Fort Lauderdale's beautiful, right? Like there's a lot of other things going on. And if your team's not great, you
Right.
could be at the beach.
For
Like,
sure.
I don't know. So I would like to see Florida take down the Bolts, because I also hate the Bolt fans. I've been in that building before. They don't know what the hell icing is. They don't know hockey. Like, let's be real. So I have no love for the Bolts. And then what's the other series? I'm blanking.
Boston
and
and
Toronto.
Toronto. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I just hope both of those teams just kill each other. And like,
Agree.
so it really played out. I'm sorry, like I said, I'm not a stats guy, and I wasn't even like really paying attention to any of the other brackets really. So it is Boston and Toronto again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, Boston got that. Toronto can't get past them. They have no chance.
is.
They never can.
All right. AB, we gave ours in session 37. So
Yeah, we did.
but just so Mikey knows, we also select well, I picked the Rangers. AB picked the Caps.
Yep.
He thinks the
Just
Caps
because
are
I
gonna
can't stand the Rangers. I will never pick for them to win anything.
and then we both picked Boston and we both picked Florida.
All right.
I'm ready to see Florida put it into the quote unquote Tampa Bay dynasty, I guess, if you want to call it. If Tampa loses in the first round, it's officially over, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
But on the opposite end of the spectrum, they could blow through the East and wind up in the final. I mean, that's you just never know.
Yeah, that's true. Playoff hockey.
All right. Well, that was an awesome discussion, guys. I really enjoyed that. But Mikey, we really appreciate you coming on. Why don't you go ahead and let the listeners know about your podcast and your other, I guess, event that you have?
Yeah, so our podcast is a little unique where we're an alternative music and hockey podcast. Like, yeah, I'm a diehard Islander fan, but the Islander talk is very minimum. So if you're tuning in, you're like, oh, I hate the Islanders, I'd never listen to this podcast. Like, we're not really an Islander podcast. My co-host is actually a Tampa Bay Lightning fan. We talk with touring musicians who are also diehard hockey fans, and we have just a hockey and music conversation. And we've talked with multiple people behind the scenes in the hockey world and the music world as well. And in doing the show for over 5 years now, we've built a really nice community of just hockey and music fans. And a couple of years ago, the idea came to have a festival with some of our former guests who are all touring musicians. And we did that down in Orlando, Florida. It was a huge hit. We had Violent Gentlemen as one of the sponsors, and it kind of has become our new passion project that kind of runs beside our podcast as well. And last year we did it in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I am, and we had 2 days. So we keep getting bigger and bigger. And then this is year 3 of the festival, and we've decided to do it in 3 different states. So we're doing it
Wow.
in Orlando, Florida, Charlotte, North Carolina, and then Richmond, Virginia.
That's
And
awesome.
Wow.
with that, we have a few bands that are playing all 3 dates of the festival, and it's, these cities are far apart. So like, how are they going to get from, Richmond down to Orlando? Well, we decided to also string together an entire 2-week tour with some of these bands. And one of the dates is actually right in Raleigh at the Poor House.
Okay.
Awesome venue in Raleigh. It's going to be a band from the Northeast, Keep Flying, which is a pop punk ska infused, just fantastic band. A local band here in Charlotte called Seneca Burns, and my co-host band Out of Time, which is based in Orlando, Florida, will be playing, and they're linking up with the Second After, which is a Raleigh-based band as well, at the Poor House, and that is July 1st. Yes, because it was, I think, originally July 2nd, and then A Day to Remember decided to do Raleigh on July 2nd as well, and that would have been a disaster for the show. So we switched, and it's now on that Monday at the Poor House in Raleigh.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I might have to check that out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there. So
all those bands are fantastic, and just super grateful that we get to do this because, I never thought when I started this podcast that it would lead to like a community like this where people want to, come out and hang out with us and support the music. And it's been a real special ride.
That's what it's all about, for sure. Definitely the
Yeah.
people, the interaction. That's what makes it fun for me anyway. So, and then also you want to talk about your IslesMeetups.
Yeah. So when I moved here in 2015, it was the first time that the Islanders made the playoffs in a couple of years, and I was feeling real homesick. So just kind of threw it up on Twitter, like, hey, any Islander fans in Charlotte, North Carolina want to get together to watch the playoffs? And we had 7 or 8 guys show up, and it really just lit the fire. And we've grown to hundreds and hundreds of members here in Charlotte. And then we also now have a group in Raleigh. We have a group in Winston-Salem. We have groups literally all over the country and even all over the world. We have a group in the United Kingdom. We have a group in Brazil.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have groups literally all over the place. And the Islanders actually have recognized us, and we have kind of little logos that are specific for each of our cities. And right there above the tailgate bar, which is kind of the centerpiece of the new UBS Arena, are all of our supporter club logos. And it's something I'm extremely proud of. And just the fact that I get to watch Islander games here in Charlotte, North Carolina with other Islander fans is something I'll never take for granted. It just turned out to be something really fun. And the people that I've met have become family at this point. So it's a lot of fun. And I'm sure if you've ever been at PNC Arena when the Islanders are playing, you've heard us. You probably hate us, but we keep it clean. We're not obnoxious. We're not Ranger fans.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I've never had never had any issues
neither
with the
have I.
Islanders at all. But hey, yeah, Mikey, that's awesome, man. Keep doing that thing you're doing down there, bringing people together. Using this platform to do that. That's excellent. So, hey, we really appreciate you coming on, sharing your perspective. I'm looking forward to this series. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, me too.
Ready for no matter what happens, just a long,
Hard fought series.
Yeah, entertainment, all that good stuff. So, yeah, looking forward to it. AB, I'm done. Go ahead and take us out.
Well, thank you so much for listening to session 38. If you haven't already, please follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook at Caniac Sessions. To keep up with us, you can follow Griff on X at M_Griff10. And you can follow me on X at AB Caniac Session. You can get the podcast, Apple Music, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Podcasts, wherever it may be. And we're getting the YouTube channel started, so just bear with us on that. But that'll be up soon. So thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in session 39.
Bye.